Access denied. Danger, 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 danger. Viewer discretion is advised. This summer, in a world, one man. Go where no man has gone before.
The Hotspot. The Hotspot.
Access granted.
Excuse me. How's everybody doing tonight? We're back, new episode of the Hotspot Podshot. It's early morning hours, October 23rd, just a little after midnight. I know I had yesterday off and I said I was going to do one, but between, wash and laundry, well, that is the same exact thing. Washing it, folding it, putting it away, meal prepping, getting ready for my week, cooking, cleaning, all that. It got away from me, and before you know it, it was time for Monday Night Football. So, yeah, I just watched the game, which was like probably one of the worst games I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't know about all of y'all, but I think it was 33-0 Patriots against the Jets, and I think there was well over 10 turnovers. It seemed like every different down, or every set of downs, Patriots defense was just daring them to try anything. So, my apologies again, guys. I know I think my last one was early September, so it's definitely been well over a month, and it's a little bit of laziness on my part. I can't even lie. There's been plenty of times I've wanted to do a podcast, and then something happens with like the internet. Because for all of you that don't know, I mean, most of you know, back in April is when it started having its hiccups. I mean, I use the Xfinity Wi-Fi hotspots. It's pretty much what you use for Comcast when you have their mobile and you don't want to use up your data. So they let you use the Xfinity hotspots, which is 6 to 8 megabits per second broadband signal that they send out that you can pick up and use off of. And I've been having a lot of issues with it working when it wants to, not working when I need it to, so on and so forth. But this is a wonderful program, debut that I've come across that I can at least pre-record and then upload at my own discretion. Because that was happening a lot with YouTube live stream, which requires internet just to, begin the broadcast, and you have to maintain it all throughout the delegated time progression. Otherwise, it's going to go bye-bye. So that happened. I lost probably 3 or 4 different episodes. No, not lost, but had to go back, re-edit, redo, whatever. And it just became more of a hassle than anything. So, there's been some big changes, not necessarily to the studio. There is one new addition. If you look on the back wall above the 4GT supercar and next to the telescope with the Hotspot logo on it, depiction, see this, I believe it's the It Chapter 2, because there was one balloon in the original It, so 2 balloons, I guess, for It Chapter 2. And am I the only one that realized that the Pennywise is throwing up the OK white power symbol? Or, I mean, I know people have been making a big sting about that, like Illuminati type stuff. If you do the OK symbol, the 3 fingers sticking up would be the W, and the OK, actual O part, would be the lowercase part of the P, and then you pretty much have to use the rest of your skin and knuckle and all that off of the thumb to get the rest of the pee, I guess. But because I know there was a big thing about Walt Disney World in Orlando, somebody did it. It was one of the Despicable Me characters did it like on a photo op, which I get, yeah. But I mean, I think people are digging into it too much as it is. But and as many of you know, in my last one, I had kind of done a I don't want to say like a prediction. It was just something that was heavy on my heart. And since then, the feeling has passed. And for anybody that doesn't know, in the last episode, I had foreseen that something big, epic was going to happen. Maybe not necessarily good, maybe not necessarily bad, but I just had this feeling in my, in my soul that something bigger than what was going on, because what was going on at the time was the whole Area 51 storming the base on September 20th. That got a lot of hype and press over the whole summer. And then towards the end of the summer, as many of you know, the whole thing with the pedophile ring, Jeffrey Epstein, suicide watch, hung himself, so on and so forth. But still, there's no visual from that, which I would think that, our state penitentiaries, they have those things on lockdown like 24/7. So for 4 to 5 minutes to be quote unquote missing, it is flabbergasting and disappointing to say the least. And that's where I've kind of grown to just be okay with in 2019, is that everything around us is just falling, crippling. All the pieces are starting to fall out, and it's going to be kind of like an avalanche or like a mudslide, or you start messing with stuff, bad things are going to happen. You can't cover things up forever. I thought the government did a pretty good job of it. I mean, when I was little, young, and dumb, but I mean, ever since the early 2000s up until present day, I smelled a lot of, fishy things that they told us that necessarily, whether they didn't make sense or they weren't really relevant to the dictation of the story at the time. It's frightening, and the people don't seem to care, because it's always people. The higher up people in the United States can just propagate whatever they want. Rich versus poor, bam, done. Black versus white, or Hispanic versus Asian, bam, done. They can create any sort of astronomical beef that they want to. If you don't believe me, I mean, just look at the whole things with different like women's rights activists, the different rallies and the times that they correlate and they start to pop up. It's all just too much attention to detail, I guess, and that really raises red flags with me. The latest one, I mean, as you know, the big anniversary was early October for the Vegas shootings, and there's been a lot of I mean, basically to say that the guy, that the schizophrenic guy that brought up 24 different guns and over 1,000 rounds of ammunition and all that, that was just a cover, a front. The dude didn't fire off one bullet from the hotel room that he was staying at, because there's a video on YouTube. You can look it up, Google it if you want. I've seen it. I should have been better prepared. I didn't really have any time to do any notes for this episode. Just kind of free swung it off the hip, as I like to do so many times in the past and today as well. But yeah, there's videos you can look. His room is, the glass is kind of punched out. You can see like a cutaway. And the window in the room next to him knocked out as well, because there were two adjacent rooms. But if you look, you don't see any bullets coming out of the gun. And I'm sorry, but no matter what type of camera you have, you're going to pick up what they call a muzzle flash. Even if you use blanks or live ammunition, whenever the bullet comes out of the gun, you're going to see kind of like evidence of it. It's going to leave what they call a muzzle flash. You're going to see like this, kind of like this almost like a little fireball puff coming out of the tail end as soon as it exits. And you can look at the video. It's not that long, but when you hear the gunshots, pop, 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 pop. And a lot of the guns that they took pictures of later were single bolt action rifles, which I don't know if a lot of you are into guns, but based off of the video and the sounds that were of the ammunition going, I'm pretty sure the quickest sharpshooter in any United States forces couldn't make a bolt action fire off pop, pop, pop. It would more be like pop, pop, pop. So yeah, that would be your single bolt action rifle. It's meant to hold one bullet in the chamber, and every time you fire it, you then have to release the, I don't know, I guess the technical term for it would be a, I don't know, but yeah, you know what I mean. But that's not even the crazy part. The crazy part, despite the muzzle flash, is if you look at the official footage of somebody it was taking from a hotel across the plaza a little bit, their actual video, somebody posted it online, and if you look at the one that pretty much every major news outlet used, from CNN to Fox to CBS to you name it, any organization, they had certain cuts in their video, and that was because there was helicopters flying in the sky that night. And if you look, it's like they show 2-3 seconds of it, they cut, they bring it back. That's because in the sky, where you can see like these little lights, and they're definitely not airplanes. They're too low to be airplanes. And McCarran Airport is actually not even that relatively close to like the quote unquote strip. The strip is probably a good 3.3 miles away from the strip. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, I walk, 50, 60 miles a month right now, at least. That's on a slow month. I mean, other months I've pumped out upwards of over 100. But yeah, I can tell you that's 3 miles is a pretty good distance, even though that doesn't seem that far. That would be from about, if you want to use like a national term that most people would know, let's go New York City. It would be about South End, where One World Trade Center is, or where the old 2 World Trade Centers were. So pretty much down towards like Staten Island and Brooklyn. And if you go up to maybe a little before Central Park, that's about 3.5 miles. So that distance, it's pretty great. So yeah, you wouldn't see like little no around. I've landed in McCarran, and I can tell you it's relatively not that close to the strip, at least in the views of the beholder of the camera person who was recording it. And like I say, I'm not trying to say that this tragedy didn't happen. It happened, and lots of people lost their lives. It's probably one of the biggest national tragedies of the United States history, let alone of the world. But here we get to the nitty gritty, and what started raising red flags with me in particular was like the autopsies weren't really being released. The bodies were being released to the families. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold that I had last week, and I'm still kind of fighting, I guess, the tail end of it. But yeah, the autopsies weren't being released to the families, and they were like kind of forged, because I guess one of the families of the deceased victim kind of paid like a private eye to kind of do their own investigation, and they found out that there was an entrance wound in the forehead and an exit wound outside the chin. Which, I mean, I'm no rocket scientist, but if you have an entrance wound on the top of the skull and an exit wound on the bottom of the skull, that would indicate that the shot came from above. So, I mean, just to kind of take that for what it is. I kind of left a second there for everybody to think about that. This was all done by some sort of CIA operative squad or something to try to control guns. Not necessarily sure how they got to formulate this, but as many people know, there was groups of high intelligence Saudi Arabia princes and all kinds of overseas Middle East delegates, fancy people, and they were basically evacuated out of the city via helicopters through there's two major charter helicopter companies. The one had like 4 or 5 planes, and those helicopters, 4 to 5 choppers, and the small ones they hold about 5 to 6 people, and the next one's not going to leave until the first one's full. So you have at least 24, 25 people being taken out of the city of Vegas about 3 minutes before the the boom 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 start happening. And again, I'm not trying to make lightweight of it. I don't mean to say boom boom boom, but you have to realize that this country does not give a shit about you. You're just a number, a person. As long as you pay your taxes, kind of like everybody remembers like their grandpa. Kind of, he was always like stern, strict, wouldn't really beat around the bush, gave it to you like it was. You kind of looked up to him, but as you grew older and you kind of grew to know he was more of kind of like a narcissistic little asshole. That's kind of how the government is, They pull the wool over your eyes and paint everything as all cool, cool, cool. Do this, don't do this, do this and that, and meanwhile they're in the back of the puppet stage pulling all different kinds of strings and stuff, and we're none the wiser because they told us, and we trust that. So that's my impungent point there. And like I said, I mean, I wasn't trying to make the whole episode about the Vegas shootings. It was just I've done a lot of research over this over the past, really 6-7 months. Been doing a lot of research on a lot of little things that I'm going to start. When you're kind of a skeptical persona, you have to kind of question everything. And I encourage every one of you to, question everything. Don't accept any blatant disregard. Because like I say, the biggest pin, how I said earlier, it could be rich versus poor, white versus black, or Chinese versus Mexicans or Hispanics, is the left versus the right. And it's kind of correlated itself into a travesty, if you ask me. Because, I don't really, if you had to put a gun to my head, said Democrat, Republican, what are you? I'm definitely, the way I was raised and grew up in this country, has nothing to do with the presidents. I love Democrat presidents, and I've liked Republican presidents, but I guess I would identify a little bit more on the right, just because pro-choice, very liberal with the gun stuff. So I would say tiptoe more towards the right than the left, but I don't really identify with either. All politics is it's the left versus the right, and it's the ultimate, back and forth, pin the tail kind of on the donkey. You could, everything, like the Democrats right now are just kind of making asses out of themselves with these whole, debate things. They're just kind of really clowning themselves while Donald Trump's clowning all of us. It's sad, but and I don't necessarily agree with the trajectories that they place under him. Like he's a fear mongering, white. He hinders the white supremacy, and I don't really buy all that. I say it's a bipartisanship of it. Not to say that it's the dude is nowhere near good or perfect or anything like that. I mean, the biggest thing is you just book the world whatever thing at G7 at his Florida resort, which no rocket scientist, as I said before, but that seems like a conflict of interest if you ask me. Why would you want everybody like? No offense, Mr. President, but your shit's not that fucking nice. I mean, I've been to Florida a couple times, and I've seen your work in your properties, and it's not shabby, but it's not, it's not the fucking Colorado International Airport. I mean, they put a lot of time. Anybody ever been to Colorado International Airport? The biggest one after that is, sorry to just jump right into that, but as many people don't know, Denver International Airport is a very weird airport in that it has very weird decorative art pieces inside. It has, the way it's just laid out, it seems just very fishy and shady altogether, if you ask me. But the other airport is also in Colorado. It's in the mountains. It's called Telluride or Telluride, I don't know, something like that. But it's like one little runway kind of, and it's really scary because you can only come in from it. You basically land from off of the mountains going into the valley, and when you take off, you have to take off from the mountains going to the valley, because if you take off going towards the mountains, you're basically going to stall out because you're not going to have enough lift to get up over the mountains because the air is so thin up there. It's like right around 10 to 12,000 feet, I think, which isn't even like super, super high, but it's still high enough to where the air is a little bit thinner. But yeah, it's Telluride. It has one runway. I've landed on it, not in real life, but in a simulator for a private pilot license, and you get to fly. Pretty much do whatever you want, wherever you want, go wherever you want, take off from wherever, land wherever, and that's how. I've always been big into planes. It's pretty much one of those things my entire life I've always had a fascination with, because when I was a kid, you just see this little thing and it just kind of like defies gravity and everything and just starts going up into the sky and long periods of times and goes from, here to across the country in just a matter of a few hours. So to me, that shit was like fascinating as a kid, because all we got back then was 80s and early 90s cars, which was nothing to write home about. Even if you had like a 1990 Ferrari, I'm sure it was still a fucking piece of shit compared to like a 2012 or 2016 Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever. But no, the reason on the last one where I was, talking about more of kind of like a premonition on my part of something bad happened, I think, has been the whole Turkey, Syria thing going on. Syria was popping up before with Iran. Remember the whole, I think it was like a fake bombing. Iran bombed, or somebody bombed Iran thing, and then, pretty much Trump early October gave the green light for Turkey to do whatever it felt it needed to do to Syria, and Trump pulled out most, if not all, of the troops from Syria, and that's when the little war began. And the little Trump card was Syria was, the Kurds, our allies of the Syria people, were guarding the ISIS camps, and they pretty much had to leave those unguarded. So, call me crazy, but that doesn't seem good. That doesn't seem good at all. Let alone Syria is kind of the bridge point from like Africa to Europe. And they've been fighting over, land, this, and this since the beginning of time. But what I was trying to say was, I think it's more of, not necessarily a precursor, but I have the kind of like a second side hunch to this first hunch, is that this is more, not like like concrete or evident, but something is gonna happen in the first week of November. Mark my words for it. I don't want to say like another American tragedy or terrorist attack or whatever, but there will be some sort of puppeteering going on to make things, and I think a lot of it is going to involve insightful violence, just because gun control has become a big thing, and they've already not stopped, but a lot of plants have like kind of slowed down the production of AR-15s. And hey, I'm all for, like, I necessarily don't think you need to have, a 23 clip round magazine, whatever, of, FMJ or ballistics tip, hollow points, whatever you want to call it, ammunition on a semi-automatic weapon like that. Like, if you're going to kill a deer, that's where you want, you call up the guy from the Vegas shootings and be like, hey, let me get your bolt action, because that fucker gonna, one bullet, it's a long bullet, not a 223, but usually like a 30-06 or something like that. Nice long skinny bullet, it's gonna take out that deer. You don't want to fire 30 bullets at it, and it looks like you get to it and you barely got no meat because it's got 45 bullet holes in the side of his chest. Like, yeah, it doesn't need that. But I mean, that's it. All starts with something, and that's what it's starting with right now, under our very own eyes and ears and feet and all that stuff. It's the AR-15 is the first gun to kind of take the brutal beating in this war against guns. I never think it'll get to the point to like where they're going to try anything with handguns, pistols, revolvers, just because that's too much of an infringement upon what our forefathers set forth. And that was, Second Amendment, right to bear arms. Protect yourself against, unequalized citizens, possible government infringement, whatever. And they might make it real slap. I think they're going to make it, real sleazy. Like, you donate, I don't know, you take to like a gunsmith and it's over like $3,000. They're going to give you like a fucking $60,000 car for free, because my feeling is, why do they keep making, 20, 30,000 cars every single year? When these cars are supposed to be lasting us 10, 20, 30 years. They're giving you 10-year motherfucking bumper-to-bumper warranty. Why are you making 20, 30,000 of the same car every year? We don't need it. It's bad. It's bad for the environment. Yes, it's good for jobs, but hey, if you can't afford to, pay the people, you lay them off so they can collect their unearned wages. And I have a very small kind of blimp of hope for government running, and that is, we don't need a government at all. I don't think we need a government at all. Hear me out on this. This is going to go through some deep, this is going to be a roller coaster. This is going to go have some ups and downs, twists and turns, and loops and corkscrews and all that good stuff. What if we had, let's say, for argument's sake, it's another big thing that's happening right now is AI. What if we had AI be in charge of the country? One ominous body. So we can't have a party, a popularity contest. We can't have, because think about it, computer, if you program it, you can program it to not really give a shit about what's good for it, but what's good for the people that it's supposed to be, providing this information for, which would be the United States of America. Because if you look at earned income wages throughout the year for roughly every 350, 360 million, how many ever people there are in America now, if you have all those people, add up all their wages for the year, the yearly budget is, I would think, allocated around like $5.7 trillion, which is 30 billion under 7 trillion, something like that. I don't know if my math is right on that. I apologize, but yeah, something crazy like that. Because a trillion is 1,000 billions. A billion is 1,000 millions. 999 million. 1,000 million is, they just call it a billion. kind of like in computer, 1,000 megabytes is kilobyte, a kilobyte, 1,000 kilobyte, yeah. Anyway, it's like 10 to 1 power ratio, kind of how like centimeters is, like, millimeters, centimeters, stuff like that. But you can just have this computer and delegate it, different. Because I imagine if you give somebody a $5.7 trillion budget, and you have, or I should say, you don't have. Think about it. You have 2 senators from every state, and I think representatives is based off population. So you have 100 people at least, and we'll say another 150, and that's probably very, very bottom line. It's probably way more than that. Because if you add all these other secret intelligence agencies and stuff that are actually run by the government, these people make anywhere from $70,000 to $230,000 a year. So if you take all those people, say 250, and the average person makes 100,000, that would be $250 million, I think. And that's just on the bottom side. So that's a quarter of 1 billion, and 1,000 billion are in a trillion. So you see where I'm going with this, people. If we take away, I haven't sat down and looked at, but I'm sure if we trim a little bit off of the military, we don't need to spend 3 times of what the entire world combined spends on their fucking military. I know we want to be the big bad wolf and be the first one to go over and be like, what are you guys doing over here, huh? Huh? What's going on over here? Cut this shit out, or I'll come over and bomb your whole fucking day. It's gotten to the point where I don't think it's really needed. People should know based off previously that we kind of can run shit, or do run shit, or will run shit, I should say. But yeah. If you take, all the, and that's just, the 250 million off of that, and you don't have all these extra people, not to say that, the government doesn't need inner body functions to be able to run. I'm just saying we could do it with a lot less. And that's not even including, all your local senators, of your different districts. Each state probably, I know like Pennsylvania, probably has 60 to 70 different fucking districts. Like Mike O'Pake used to be one of ours. I think he was the main senator, but then you also have your county representatives and all the little stuff. They don't make that much either compared to, president is a $400,000 salary, but if you go back in the previous presidents and look, most of them were doing pretty well to where the $400,000 a year didn't even matter. Look at Trump. He didn't even take a salary. Because if you know what you're doing and certain people scratch your back, you scratch their back, they help you out, you don't need to worry about $400,000 a year. Because they're making millions and billions and billions, and that's what I understand. Money is the world runs off of propagated interest. That's what makes the world go round, is having so many different banks. If you imagine, that's what I understand. Why would they want one order, one thing? Because that takes supply and demand out of the window. For instance, let's see, what's a good example here? Okay, well, we'll just use, if you have 2 different banks, and you want to put your money in an account, you're not necessarily going to just take the highest interest yield one. But let's say, one's 0.7%, one's 0.75%. You would want to go with the 0.75 because that would get you a better return, a better return on your interest. At the same time, if you get into like that locked, fixed locked contract, because that's pretty much what it is, and you have to maintain like a $50,000 or $100,000 minimum balance, and another bank kind of offers you, let's say 2%, but you have to have 200,000 in the account at all times. That's because for that 2.5% to be able to do what they need to do, they need to be able to kind of dip their hands in that 200 grand whenever they feel is necessarily right. Not necessarily to just move your money and broker your money and find out what's good and because that's all that they're doing is, like the stock market. All it is it opens up like a school day around like not 8-9 o'clock. You call up your friends over in Europe. Hey man, Coca-Cola not doing so well today. There's talks of union strikes and this and that. You guys should get rid of all your shares. Just sell away. Bam. What's that going to do by lunchtime? It's going to drive the price of Coca-Cola stocks down drastically because some people made some phone calls and now it's sell. Meanwhile, some of these brokers that made that call, because there's nothing that says you can't do that. And then the people that made those calls will call up some other people and is like, hey, Coke's going to come back strong. You should buy it now while it's super cheap. They might take some of that money that you gave them to try to, piddle up the pony with, and because that's not what happened with. That's what happened with Hershey. Hershey they were really strong. And then they started closing like regional plants up because production was slowing down, and everybody lost their marbles. But not my one friend. He held out. He had a lot of stock in there, and I think he just like cashed out. It was all said and done, like a little over 300 grand. And I think he said when he invested it back in like the 1950s, he put in like $50 a year, something like that. And over all them years, it made itself into, a little over $250,000. Now after taxes, I'm sure it's going to drop down about like $1.80, $1.90, 180, 190,000, but that's still not bad. And here's a fun fact: did you know a penny double every day over a month in a month is it's an exuberant. It's like well over $1 million, and I could probably do that up to like the 15th, the 16th of the month, but then after that, because that's when you really start making your money. You turn like 88,000. The next day you double that, it turns to 168,000, and then after that it turns into 330 whatever, and then 660, and then 1 point something mil, and so on and so forth, until you get to the end of the month. Speaking of months, I am pleased to announce through, I can't really say they're a sponsor of this podcast, because they're really, they're not, they are, but they're not. I don't have any monetary sponsorships, just because right now I'm not about that. And when you always have, monetary sponsorships, you always have to be very careful with what you say on the air waves, and you always have to promote their stuff. But this is, kind of more of a personal. Well, long story short, it's SweatCoin is the group, and it's kind of some sub partnerships that I'm working with. But basically, I come up with these exuberant ideas, and I was like, I bet it'd be cool to hike across Florida in a month. I get an email a couple weeks later. You get across Florida in a month? And I've actually done the sat down because, this is not taken off, but it's definitely become a valid option for me. So, yeah, basically the bright idea I had was, wouldn't it be fun because Florida, I've been to Florida 4 times. most of them were like pretty recent too. Uh, I've never been to like South Florida, like, but I mean, all it is in the South is Miami, and then next to that is just pretty much swamp city, from what I hear. But it has very diverse. Like the northern Florida is more kind of like the South of America. Like even though Florida is in the South, I don't consider Florida to be the part of the South because they're kind of just their own special fucked up entity down there. I don't know. And if you're from Florida, no disrespect. I mean, I've been to, like I said, I've been to Florida. I fucking love Florida beaches. Best beaches on the East Coast. I know that's not saying that much, but actually no, because my favorite beach I've ever been to was probably Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It just had like, it just felt like a ghetto Cancun, Mexico. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, Myrtle Beach, but South Carolina, still part of the Atlantic, but it's a little bit better than Jersey. But it was just the vibe. It wasn't necessarily like the water or the beaches. It was just like the vibe and the air. I guess the time I went, there was a lot of like little beach club parties going on, and music, dancing, girls drinking, guys playing volleyball and drinking and trying to act all but yeah, I mean, I do. I think in this next year, I definitely want to start at least traveling more, even if I'm, taking a hit, which it hurts because, me trying to pursue stand-up comedy is rough, and a lot of jobs aren't interlocked with that. If that makes sense. Like, I mean, I asked like 2 days off from my boss to do a show, and never really happened. Like he said, "Nah, I kind of need you them 2 days." Da 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 da. So it is what it is. But and I would never dare try being a comic, being like a full time general manager of a pizza shop like I used to be, because I did that for like 5 6 years, and I mean I liked the paychecks and the money was good, but it just felt like it kind of brought down a lot of stuff in my life. Didn't help with my relationship at the time. Um, I felt like I gave 150% and just kept getting stabbed in the back. Not necessarily just by like work related stuff, but by personal and family. It was just a rough time, and the time has passed, and things are still go figure to this day rough. Um, But it's all about your attitude. I mean, even though it's rough, I know I still have it better than most people do. Um, so I have to, even though I'm not where I want to be, I'm not where I shouldn't be. So to me, that's kind of almost just as good. Um, and I apologize for any background noise in this episode. I'm kind of, this is my first one in a while, and I was having that mic up that the dude bought for me or gave me money for to buy. That mic has since been decapacitated or incapacitated. There is a couple other nice ones that I'm looking at, but they're $60 to $80, which is a step up from this. And yeah, I'll get there though. I mean, it's all about baby steps, and I've learned that a lot this year. As long as you're taking little steps forward, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if it takes you 3 years to get there. Just the fact that you got there is more exuberant than any other accomplishment that you could set forth for yourself at the time. So, yeah, this year has it's been real. It's been really real to me. Maybe not necessarily good, like to me in a financial way, but the more pulled back I feel I am against, like I don't, being in the social aspect of stuff with, trying to be a comedian and all that, kind of sounds cliche and all that, but I try to like pull myself away from the limelight just so I can observe, because that's how I kind of formulate my opinion on things now. Is I just kind of formulate a guess. I sit back, I watch, take notes, compare to what I thought was going to happen to what actually happened, and so on and so forth. Um, but yeah, and as far as the comedy stuff, the sad thing is, I mean, I did take podcasts are hard to do. It's really hard to get off, um, all these certain days that people try to um, push off on you. And it's like I said, if I had maybe an agent or a manager or somebody to help out, it wouldn't be as so burdensome on me, and I could just kind of more go versus I have to set up before I can go. Kind of like learning to walk before you can run. But if you just have somebody holding you up, you can just fucking run the whole time. It doesn't really matter. You don't gotta learn to walk. So yeah, but December 16th, I believe it is. Should be on Monday. Um, but I will be in Brooklyn, New York. It is not my first, but it's definitely the first in a while paying gig. And it's a Monday. It'll be at Jim's in the Woodside district of Brooklyn, which you take the Long Island Expressway. I mean, no offense, I didn't ask for any comp tickets, and it's not pricey to get into. I think it's like $12 or $15, but yeah, I don't think people are gonna drive 3 hours to fucking east side of Brooklyn to come see me. Plus, it's only like a 15 to 18 minute set. I haven't really spoke with the guy, but yeah. And then after that, I think I'm gonna take the winter off, just because it's really hard, calling up people, calling up clubs, and especially getting them to fucking pay you for time, and they haven't even heard. I mean, people have heard of me, but they haven't heard of me. They have heard of, i.e., Brandon Flowers from the Killers, or i.e., Brandon Flowers, the defensive cornerback that played for the Chiefs and the Chargers briefly before he retired. So yeah, and I can get free spots, but that requires travel money. Usually, I mean, I can take the bus to New York for like $40 round trip. So to me, that's not really that big of a deal. But I mean, if you're up there the whole day, and you got to at least eat once, and that's $10-15. So yeah, I mean, you're looking probably $55-$60 just to do a free gig, and that's not including your time that you're not working or not doing a project or not at your house or whatever, because you figure out probably there like 3 o'clock in the afternoon till like 3 o'clock in the morning. That's 12 hours. So even if the minimum wage is still what you paid in travel and food, is pretty much what you should have got at a minimum wage job. Not in New York City, that would be in Pennsylvania, $7.25 an hour. So yeah. But anyway, back to the Florida thing. It was kind of more of like a mockery joke, But then the more I thought about it, I'm like, well, wait a second, why not? I mean, as long as I didn't do this like in June, July, or August, in the middle, when it's like 102 and just deadly and possible chance of being blown away by a hurricane or eaten by an alligator. The more I sat down and thought about it, and it definitely, believe me, there's you're probably like, oh, you're getting a nice cut of change if this is gonna. The money is poop. I think this wasn't even including like a lot of the sponsorships, because basically what I would do is, my plan is it would be all walking. There would be no cheating of putting your thumb up and trying to get a ride from like Jacksonville to Fort Lauderdale or something, nothing like that. This would be from north to south too, because some people are like, well, you could just walk from Jacksonville to like Tallahassee. You could probably do that in a week. But no, this is going to be the long way from north to south. Pretty much yeah, and like I said, I mean, I have to at least get on a conference call with these guys. Um, but it was just an idea. I mean, if the average person can walk 3 miles per hour. Florida, from north to south, is like 337 miles in 30 days, because that's basically, it would be a month. And the timeline that they're giving me is I would either have to push this and get a little bit in shape and do this in March of this of 2020, or I would have to wait until October. But I'm thinking about pushing it to November, which I know is going to stink because I won't be in around for Thanksgiving. But the only reason I say November over October is because, I mean, still in Florida, it gets to be about like the high 80s for highs in southern Florida. And I think that's going to play a big part in it. I mean, I have no, like, if it was, 72 to like 80, I would be fine. But I think if it starts creeping above like 82, 85, that's going to start playing a factor in like hydration, nutrition, all that sort of stuff. But my plan is to basically hike north to south in Florida in 30 days. And it equivalates to be, I don't even know, to be honest. Well, we have 337 miles in Florida. And if it's 30 days, you would only have to walk 11.2 miles per day to do that quota. And 11.2 miles is a lot. That's about New York City. If you want to use the reference before, like where World Trade Center 1 is, the south end, towards the Manhattan Bridge going into Brooklyn, all the way up, like towards past the Bronx. That's like 11 point, maybe even like 12, 13 miles. So maybe not quite that much, but yeah, that's a lot to do every day. And that has to be your average, because you figure some days you're going to only want to walk 7, some days you're going to want to walk like 9, some days you're going to want to walk 4. So there's going to be certain days where you're going to have to walk, 13 to 18 to 20. You might even have to have a couple 22, 23 days in there. And I started writing it down of like how I would do it. I would want to train, so that's why I'm trying to push for November of next year, because that gives me about a year to get into a better shape. Because I'm like 277 right now. I feel good. Because I stopped smoking Newports, everybody. I would like to put that out there. Very, very proud of myself. I know people are like, well, you didn't quit smoking, you just quit smoking Newports. But you have to understand, that's kind of like a feat within itself. And like I said, baby steps, Because, I mean, I've quit Newports before, and I went to like L&M, Cool, Sonoma. I think I said L&M. Yeah. So I was pretty much going, 2 or 3 grades lower than that. And it would work. I've done it a couple times, and maybe like 2-3 weeks each time. And I can't really say anything because I'm still in the early stages of this. But I already feel a little bit better. I mean, it's only been a couple days, but I've already felt, and I am smoking, but I'm pretty much doing Rolios, which is homemade rolls. I bought a bag of tobacco, a bag of or a box of tubes, and one of the little sliders, cigarette machines. And I think I spent like 22, 23 bucks. And that should last me a month. And then after that, I just buy the tobacco and the tubes. And it should be like $15 a month, because the little slide cigarette machine is probably like $8, $9. And you probably only have to buy, well, it depends how long it lasts, but you shouldn't have to buy that many. So yeah, the Florida thing is pretty exciting, because it's like one of the first things that I've wanted to do that has kind of come to fruition. Yeah, can't talk. Come to fruition. So I've been really excited about that. I'm also really excited that fucking Cowboys beat the Eagles on Sunday. And I should not say They subjugated them fools. It was like 27-7 at halftime. And I bet my boss at work and I won. So, I'm pretty freaking stoked because I thought it was going to be a close game. And I thought, yeah, Cowboys would probably win. But I didn't think, it was going to be a landslide type victory. So I was very happy to see that. Well, not necessarily see it, but hear about it and look into it. And the thing I would like to kind of talk about here on closing, because I'm getting ready to wrap up. I think we're at about 55 minutes, and I like to keep these about an hour. And knock on wood, we haven't had any freaking people burn their toast. I haven't had to hear the fire trucks. So, in closing, a lot of people have, told me about different, not necessarily like drugs, but case in point, we'll use drugs because it's not just marijuana or cocaine or methamphetamines or anything like that. Drugs, pretty much anything that alters your state of being, which is pretty much, any pill you take, any vitamin you take, it's altering your physical endurance ability. So therefore, everybody pretty much takes drugs, from kids to grown-ups to senior citizens. Only people who aren't taking drugs is dead people. That's because they're dead, or they probably still would be. Woo. Sorry, that's a little fucked up after. I kind of say things sometimes just because I think they're funny, and then after I say them, I'm kind of like, whoa. But yeah, everybody has a hobby in their own right. Some people it's cigarettes, some people it's alcohol. That's a big one. And then I can say I'm kind of blessed to not have the chains shackled around me, because I've had people that, it sounds painful, like just the amount of withdrawal and incumbency they seem to go through. They seem to be like the most burden hindrance out of it. Like if they don't have a drink, it's like the whole life comes apart. And I mean, there have been plenty of points in my life where I might have been considered a heavy drinker. I would never say alcoholic. I don't think I've ever been alcoholic. But I enjoy a drink every once in a while. It's not really my cup of tea. But like I said, I'm not against, drinking a beer or having a shot or, maybe, but I'm not the person that always has to have, bottles in their crib to, have a party, get shit-faced every weekend, to just go back to work, been there, done that, not for me, boo-boo, I'm sorry. It's not cool. Because it's what I call using a crutch through life. You work the Monday through Friday, you're all dedicated, and then Friday night comes along, woo! Shot. And then Saturday comes along, we're gonna take it easy, we're gonna have a poker night, some cigars, and some beer, and then, Sunday rolls along, you watch football, drink a little bit more, and then your weekend's over, and what was it flabbergasted upon? Alcohol, beer, liquor. And hey, to each their own. Like I said, my philosophy that I've come, I'm 32 years old, and not to say that I have any sort of profound wisdom, but yeah, not that I have any special abilities or anything, but you can kind of feel something out, and if it's not what it seems to be, it usually isn't. Like something's too good to be true, it usually is. Yeah, it's very much the case in life. So, but like I said, everybody has, a hobby that they're into. Some people some people they're just pill pushers. That's what they like to do. They just might not necessarily have to be like an opiate or a painkiller, but just they're like a pill junkie. They like swallowing in a weird way. I don't know. But the big one I've noticed is a very bad one, and it's one that I can say for this one I have not had the fortune of being able to throw the shackles off. That is caffeine. Yeah, everybody loves a good freaking cup of Joe, and it's not even that anymore. It can be the big thing I've noticed has been just recently, like in this past year, has been energy drinks. Like for years and years and years, the baseline was like 160, 180. You know, that was your Monster, Red Bulls, Nas, those sort of things. And then Bang came out and they're like zero this, zero that. And they have like 240 milligrams of caffeine, which is like 2 cups, 2.5, or like what, 2.5, 3 cups of coffee about? It's crazy. And now somebody has outdone them. This big new energy drink company called Reign, 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 300 milligrams per serving. That's insane. And I must say, I mean, I've tried a Reign. Not really a fan. I'm sorry. It just has too much. It reminds me of like a rock star. It has like that raspy aftertaste. You know what I mean? And it's not like a chemical like the taurine. Like I mean, like that's how Monster and Red Bull you can kind of taste like the taurine and the G word that's in there. Guava? No, not guava. I don't know. Should have. But anyway, it's just it's insane. It's people are, and the problem is, at least that I've come through with different hobbies, is the more your tolerance builds up, you're gonna want more and more and more to get you to that level. But the problem is, you something's gonna have to like come out later in the year that's like 400 milligrams, and then what are we gonna draw the line at? Like 1,000 milligrams of caffeine? Like motherfuckers will just be like, they won't even need a jetpack. They'll just be like hovering. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's some. I mean, that's just something that I picked because I mean, my personal favorite is Bangs. I mean, they're the 230, 240 milligram, but they have like zero everything. They taste most of their flavor. I've only had like two that I wasn't really a fan of, but they don't have any that are like bad tasting. Um, and I've so happened to kind of previously date one of the co-founded partners, Sarah. She came to like I think she was like lived with her step parent or aunt or something in Boyertown, and she was going to Empire Beauty School, and then we broke up, and she just like left. Never really ghosted me before ghosted was really a thing, but back then we didn't, get our panties in a bunch. We just moved on. That means they're not interested. Why do you have to have answers? Why do you have to have closure to everything? Why can't people just let shit go and let it be, It's been one of the biggest things that has ever belittled me in my life was the relationship that pretty much, as many people know, I mean, it's been documented on many previous podcasts before. The bitch like ruined my life, but I didn't really need to have closure. I moved on in my own way. And do I still have feelings for her? Probably. I don't think you lose. I don't have like an ounce of hate in my blood. I've just always been a genuinely good, nice person, I guess. I mean, there's been a lot of times, like, don't cross me and all, but to hate, to have not a care for that human being in the world is saying a lot. And I can honestly say, like, I mean, I might have said, like, I hate you to somebody, but, like, to actual have despicable hate for a human being it wouldn't make me a human being in my own mind, right? So I just, kind of let it for what it is, and that's how the cards fall sometimes, And you might not necessarily be able to get a better hand, but it's all about how you play the hand that you have. Because there's been many times you can ask. I've had people like tap my shoulder in the middle of fucking poker games. They're like, "Why are you still in on a fucking 6-7 offsuit?" Because I'm hoping to get a fucking straight and surprise these motherfuckers. I don't know. But yeah, you got like. I mean, I'm not gonna like go all in on a 6-7, but I was at Hollywood, and my boy tapping me on the shoulder like. It was not a fan, and I don't think I got the straight on that anyway because, yeah, the straight didn't come. You get a 6-7, but you still need a 5, an 8, and a 9, or a 4, a 5, and an 8, or something. So yeah, what else? Can I finish up a closing here? Sports. I mean, basketball's starting up, hockey's starting up, baseball's ending. Just get it over with. Who cares? It's the Astros and the Nationals. Like, okay. And I mean, I did not watch a game up to in September or October or whatever. But yeah, I'm just happy. I mean, football's in full swing. We're about not quite halfway through the season yet, but midway through November we will be, and teams are starting to get their bye. Like my team, the Cowboys, have a bye this week, so I don't really care if I have all Sunday because I mean I might watch one or two other games, but yeah, I'm not really gonna. It's gonna take my bet winnings from the game and maybe get some Chinese or something. It was only $10, so it's not like I didn't have that much faith in the Cowboys. I wasn't gonna be like, yeah, 50, because I might be a betting man, but I'm not a gambling man. I'm not a dumbass. But anyway, hope everybody enjoyed this. Sorry I went a little bit overboard. It looks like we're getting closer towards an hour and 10, but hey. So I hope everybody enjoys themselves, listens to this, and even questions some of the stuff I said today. Because, I mean, I want to tell people what I want people to know that's going on. So that's kind of why I pursued this avenue, because it, lets me portray to a genre a voice that might need to be reconciled with, because that's kind of what happened to me. Like, never really watched the news, and then you hear something in the paper, and you just kind of like go on telling other people, and then here it's, you go back and it had nothing to do with that original principle at all, really. So that's kind of why I try to do my own research on everything. And my philosophy is I usually try to A, read the whole article, and B, try to find two other sub-interest plot articles about that same initiation that correlate with that original article. So kind of like three strikes and you're out, but in a good way. So yeah. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hopefully this one went well, and no fire engines, maybe a little bit of background noise, but we'll get the mic thing taken care of. But love y'all, and be back real soon again.